Welcome to a magnificent hotel, an exciting evening, and the kick-off of a spectacular and what I expect successful fundraising campaign. Growing up in England, my parents showed me more by their actions than their words that you cannot be too kind and too generous. And if you are a candidate for the 2012 Man and Woman of the Year, or campaign manager, supporter, or generous donator, welcome. You are very kind and very generous. In case we haven't had the pleasure of meeting, I'm your MC, Patricia Fripp. For me, this evening is very nostalgic for two reasons. The first is, in 1966 at age 0, I arrived in San Francisco, no job, nowhere to live, no contacts, $500, with two impressions about America. One, that everyone in America was rich, and second, that the streets were paved with movie stars. As we are at the Hopkins Hotel, it reminds me that my first job was here in the Hopkins Beauty Salon. At that time, the hotel was owned by Gene Autry, who was a singing cowboy and Hollywood star. I had the opportunity to style the hair of movie stars and royalty. The second reason this is a memorable evening is that I had the honor of being the first woman, the 1991 Woman of the Year. Now, I don't know about you, but I like the story behind the story. I like to put every event into historical perspective, and I hope you will indulge me while we look at the story behind this campaign. We have to go back to the late 70s and 80s. There was a 14 store chain called Hastings, which sold upscale men's clothes. The ad director, British, his name was Mr. Elgan, partnered with a very wacky, wild, creative, legendary advertising man called Robert Pritikin. And together they came up with a great advertising campaign which is attributed to increasing sales by 30%. They decided to have the Hastings Man on billboards. They searched the country and found the perfect Hastings Man, Scott McKenzie, the highest paid New York model, and he was featured on billboards with the quirkiness of he always had one shoe on and one shoe off. Some of these campaigns were dramatic and amazing, and people would just stand around the billboards and look. One had him laying down in a hot dog, and the slogan was, "Get your buns in the Hastings for the August sale." Another time, he had a cap, a tie, shorts, one sock on and one sock off. And the billboard said, "Everything's coming off at Hastings February sale." In 1990, Mary Kelly, who is the managing director of the Hastings store in San Francisco, approached Vicki Wyland and Liz Hills, who was a brand new employee at the Leukemia Society, and said, "One of our very much loved managers just died, and we would like to have a fundraising program in honor of John Spencer, cocktail party, something, and give the money to the Leukemia Society." Liz thought and came up with a very creative suggestion. Why don't we see if we can get 10 billboards donated and bring back the Hastings Man of the Year? And what we will do is get participants to raise as much money as possible, and the person who wins is on the billboard. This was a fun campaign. Everyone got involved, had fun. And Matt, who was the manager of the Park Hyatt Hotel, won. The next year, 1991, they decided to introduce this to women. 5:30 on a Friday evening, Liz Hills calls and says, "I hear you're a mover and a shaker and a wheeler and dealer." I said, "You heard right." She said, "How would you like to go in a contest to raise money for the Leukemia Society?" I said, "Absolutely no interest whatsoever." And even without taking my seminars, Liz Hills knew that life is a series of sales situations. The answer is no if you don't ask. She also realized that sometimes no is just, I don't have enough information. She said, "Well, Patricia, let me tell you what your prize is. You would be featured on 10 billboards around San Francisco." And I knew she had me. That year, we had 40 participants between the men and the women, and we raised $100,000. Now, my goal was to match what the men had raised the year before. Not that I'm in the slightest bit competitive with men, but I raised 30,000. The woman who was second raised 16,000. So 2 women raised nearly half the money. And it was so much fun to see me on Hastings billboards. Now, since then, and I hope you share the pride that this campaign started in San Francisco and has extended through many of the chapters all around America, and we have raised almost $8 million. Congratulations to the candidates. And that is going to be the start of my opening for the kickoff of the 2012 Man and Woman of the Year for the Leukemia Society.